Alright, this is the 800XL that we previously installed Ultimate 1MB and Sophia into, Sophia DVI. I've got the board back out now because the owner has decided he wants to install a stereo Pokey board. Now, although this board does actually already have a Pokey in a socket, it's an old machine socket, and I think for the sake of completeness, since we put nice new sockets under everything else, we might as well replace the socket with the one that came with the board. So this also gives me an opportunity to try out the desoldering tool for socket removal, which I haven't tried yet. So we're going to do the usual trick of adding some solder on the bottom of the component, or the socket in this case, and I'll warm up the desoldering tool while I'm on. I'll take the chip out the board first. Okay, so while that's warming up, we'll just add a little bit of solder on the bottom of the socket. Now, I wouldn't dream of reusing a socket, but it'll be interesting to see if it can be taken out more or less in one piece. That's just about as hot as we need it to be, so here we go. Let's have a look at that. Well, it feels quite loose. It's sometimes useful to pick away at some of the legs if they're not immediately ready to go. You can hear them click when you push them with the screwdriver. And it just tells you that it's free of the veer. You can hear them pop. They were just a bit clinging to the side a little bit. Okay, that should come off now. That one's still stuck. There we go. That's it. There we go. Let's have a little look. I'll show you that. It looks relatively clean. There's a couple of little bits and bobs we can wick out, but that is basically ready to go. So we turn this off now and proceed. Just to clean up a little tiny little bit of solder that's left on the board, and just to check out anything else that we need to clean up. It looks pretty damn good though. Give it a little tiny little clean. So let's have another look at this. Absolutely beautiful. I see Open Broadcaster's got, it's just had an update there. It's got a little pause button next to the recording button. How exciting. Right, just tack that at the corners. Now there's a radial capacitor as well in the corner here, and it's going to get in the way of the stereo board, so I'm just going to bend that to one side a little bit as well after I've got the socket nice and flat. So I'll just push it down and heat it up, make sure it's flat on the board. Okay, so we should put the Pokey chip back in and make sure that the machine still powers up, and we can do that without having to plug the Sophia back in. We'll just power it up on the right here and turn it on. Make sure you get a picture. we do. I think the colour trim pot got knocked there. I had a green picture for a minute, but it does indeed work. We should probably test the keyboard as well. The keyboard works. So now we can make these extra connections that we need. I'll show you the Pokey board. Now this is the version 2 Lotharek stereo Pokey board. Now this stereo board has the U switch, which you used to sell separately. This has the U switch device built in. I think that's on the control pin on the right there, and that simply allows the board to be controlled with a digital logic signal rather than an analog switch. It's a little bit of a shame that he stopped selling U-switch, because they were in their own right quite useful boards. You could use them for other things as well. Anyway, he's replaced it with this. So that's what we're going to put in the board. And if you order one of these, don't forget to order a second Pokey as well. The owner of this board's already got one, but don't forget to order the second Pokey, because it doesn't come with a second Pokey unless you ask for one. I don't know if Lotharek's actually got any Pokeys left in stock. They're becoming quite hard to find now. So for this modification, we need a connection to A4 and to bell. Now bell is the keyboard buzzer, the GTI speaker basically. So we're going to need we're going to need 3 wires here. We're going to need a 5-way connector going to the Ultimate 1 MB board, which is going to, so MO is going to connect to the control pin here, and then we get connections to bell, A4, and of course to the headphone jack itself, which is this here, and headphone jack, which is going to go on the back of the board. So I need to go away and do some crimping, unfortunately, so I'll be back when I've finished that. Are you interested in Atari 8-bit computers? Then pop down to atari8.co.uk today. We've got firmware, we've got drivers, software, reviews and hardware, instructional videos and more. In the firmware section, we've got a brand new BIOS for the Ultimate 1 MB, Incognito, you name it, we've got it. In the APT section, we've got a collection of drivers and utilities for all your hard disk management needs. In the software section, we've got The Last Word, which was one of the best word processors ever written for any computer. We've also got the ongoing work-in-progress graphical operating system for the Atari 8-bit. The review section, well, there's not much there really. So moving on to the hardware section, you can choose from repairs and upgrades, all the services we offer. And we've also got a complete library of videos covering all kinds of different topics. As you can see, everything at your fingertips. You barely have to do a thing. So if you've got an Atari 8-bit computer that needs upgrading or repairing, well, why the hell don't you get in touch with us, for Christ's sake? I've done my crimping, and anybody who watches this channel knows just how much I love to crimp. So that's that out of the way. So now I'm looking for A4 on the board, which is pin 13 of the CPU. So if we count back here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So here, somewhere around here, oh, here we go. That looks like A4. I'm just going to double check. Yeah, I certainly have. So it's the second via. I'll show you properly. You can get A4 from there, if you can see that. Right there, the one I've got the probe in. So it's nice and close to where the Pokey board's going to be. And the bell signal, the nearest place I can find it is the bottom of this cap here, C23. So the bottom of C23 at the front of the board That'll do for the bell signal. So let's wire this in so we can make our cable. So I've already made the little wire. This is the 5-way connector for the P4 header on the Ultimate board. This is the 3-way connector for the stereo board. So that's going to MO, going to the logic input control pin. So the middle wire is going to be A4, so that's going to be quite short, so let's go and route that one. So I had to move the Ultimate board a little bit so we can see what we're doing. So if I put the board in anyway, we'll get a better idea of how long the wires need to be. That'll be a good idea. And I forgot to move that capacitor as well, which I said I would do before, so let's just bend that capacitor over a little bit as it's in the way. I'm just going to heat the legs and bend it over quite a steep angle. I think that'll do it. Will that do it? It's still a little bit tight. That's better. I've bent it forward a bit as well. That looks better. So yeah, that's this radial cap at the front here. You may have to bend that a little bit if you've got some spare length of leg on the bottom of the component. That helps. So if we plug this in, that's probably the best way to figure out what length of wire we need. So that's just going to do a short jump. I mean, it's not even an inch away from the. It's not even an inch away from where we need to be here, so it's going to be very short. I won't make it too short, but I won't make it too long either. I won't care about that much. Very short. A bit of a twist. I'll tin that. Starting to look a bit busy here. Just couldn't be bothered to take off the Ultimate 1 MB completely, because this pokey board was a bit of a late extra, a bit of a last minute addition. Push this through here, and as soon as I put the iron on it, it should stick, which it does, and then we'll add a little bit more to it. That's it. Beautiful. And we can push down a little bit. Just trim that. It looks fine. Okay, so now we can rig up the bell signal. Right, so I'm going to thread that under that the leg of that radial capacitor there. Just give it a little bit of slack. A bit of extra flux on there. Okay. Twist that a little bit. Hook it around there. That looks okay. And now put our screws and things back in here. I think that should be fine. Okay, and then this needs to plug in here on the 5-way connector, like so. Alright, ever the perfectionist, I actually went ahead and I redid this wire going from the control pin to MO, because I wanted it to snake round underneath here, so you can see. So I lengthened that wire a bit, so now it goes underneath the Ultimate board and it snakes around nicely with the other little loom of wires going across here. So I spent a bit of time doing that off camera because it involved more crimping. So there you go. So yes, so I need to get another pokey chip to test this out. Well, I'm going to send this back with just the one pokey in it because the owner has the second pokey at his place. So I just need to put one in to test it. But we're not quite there yet because we need to fit the jack for the headphone connector. Now I also don't know, and it didn't tell me which side is which when it comes to stereo, so I'm going to have to figure that out, but that's relatively easy enough to swap just by switching the two outer wires. The two inner wires are going to be the ground wires. So this is going to route across here, and I should have probably threaded this through before I put the board back in, but never mind, we'll see what we can do. I'm going to thread this through here, something like that. Okay, so we should be able to get our audio cables through here like so. If I put a push on, there we go. Right, nice. So I said probably by a process of trial and error I can figure out which side's which. I think because this is going to have to be removed every time the computer is taken apart, we should probably make it a little bit more accessible. So the ground will go to the center pin, so we'll just twist the two grounds together. So I won't heat up the shrink fit tubing until I know for sure I've got the wires the right way around with regards to the stereo channels. So yeah, if I put the jack around this end, it's going to leave us with plenty of it's going to leave plenty of slack for actually, if we need to take the case out, we just have to disconnect this here, thread the cable through the back. Alright, so I've done some drilling here, and what we've got is a nice hole for the headphone connector. I'm operating a little bit below par here at the moment because I've got some dental discomfort, which it looks like this is the teeth end game here that we're embarking on.
Well, since you've been frozen, there have been fabulous advances in the field of dentistry.
What do you mean?
So I'm going to pass the jack right through there and put the little securing nut on the outside. And I did discover that I did have the left and right channels the wrong way around, so I've swapped them over, but I'm now going to finish the cable off now that I know it works properly, and then we'll put the thing back together. So let's do that right now. So there's our finished shrink fitted connector. Right, so let's put the machine back together. There's a special fastener for this thing, but of course I don't have one. That looks quite smart. Alright, so let's put the DVI connector on. It should look extremely nice. So put that on there, like so, and then put these little bolts back through here. I think this is going to look very good. And this is coming from someone who never particularly liked connectors attached to cases of computers, but this one's turned out quite well. So there's all of our audio-visual connectivity. This channel switch is completely redundant, but who knows, it could be used for something in the future. That looks quite nice and balanced, and yes, quite pleased with that. Alright, let's put the top of the computer on. Not forgetting, of course, that I've got to take my pokey chip out of here before it ships back. Alright then, so here we are with the machine plugged in and powered up. So let's do the boot test again. Nice reassuring SIO sounds. Right, so I'm going to give you a closer look at the quality of the video here. This is the DVI video, extreme close-up. You can see how sharp this is. It's absolutely incredible. And that is DVI to DVI, but HDMI to DVI, or rather the other way around, DVI to HDMI does work, but you're going to have problems getting audio out of the machine then, because I think when the TV's on an HDMI input, it's going to expect audio through the HDMI cable, so that might present problems. So that's Yump.
Oh shit. Here we go again.
Alright, we rejoined this project after a pause of about 4 days, after I noticed some strange graphical glitches on the Sophia's DVI output when I was testing the stereo audio. This led me to contact Simius, who said he would send me a test firmware, because he suspected that the issue, which was actually picture dropouts and strange player missile garbage on the screen. I noticed it first on the Yump title screen. And he suggested this might be a clock timing issue, a Phi 2 issue. And so I had to buy a little micro match connector to put onto my USB blaster cable so I could flash the board with this new firmware that he was going to send across. And the connector arrived on Saturday, and I put it on the cable, but I couldn't get the Quartus programming software. It couldn't detect the device. So it's Sunday now, and in desperation, I tested the USB blaster with the Ultimate cartridge that I've still got, because that's the reason I had this thing in the first place. Cable worked fine, but it would not detect the Sophia with the little connector I put on. I'll show you it actually. Let's unplug it. So there's the USB blaster, and I put the micro match connector on the cable. Now you might see there's a little row of holes there, because I checked. I used as a reference a photograph that Michael, MyTech, had uploaded onto the forum of his USB blaster with the same thing, this micro match connector, crimped onto it, so that he could connect it not only to the original device but the Sophia using this thing. And of course logic would dictate that pin 1, which is the key pin that's got this little notch that shows you the pin 1 end of the connector, logic would dictate that the red wire was pin 1. It turns out that this cable, whoever made this IDC cable, decided to use pin 10 for the red wire. I had a suspicion about this, but until you actually check these things. So I took the connector off and put it round the other way, and it works now. So it does appear to have fixed the problem, this new firmware. And what I'll do is I'll just quickly step through the process of actually using Quartus, the Quartus programming software, to update the board. Okay, so we're going to use the Quartus programming software. Obviously we've got our USB blaster plugged into the PC, USB. I won't go through the whole installation procedure because it's a little bit outside of the context of the video. But yeah, so we just want the programmer, so Quartus Prime programmer here. So we're just going to run that and drag it onto this monitor. So here we go. Now we can load the file that Simi has sent me. So that's in downloads. So that's that one there. That's a POF file. I don't know if you have to do an auto detect. I just have done. So it seems to me that you load the file first, then auto detect. You need to check all these boxes here. So we're going to do program, configure, verify, etc. I hope you can see that. I should have probably scaled the monitor up a bit. And the Atari should be powered on because there's an in-system programming method here. So the Sophia should be plugged in, switched on, just load the file as I have done here, and then we should be able to hit start, and you can see it's erasing and programming and performing verification, and that is it. That's all there is to it. So I suppose, yes, it probably would be a good idea to step through the download and installation procedure of all the drivers and software, because it took me a good 90 minutes on Saturday night to firstly figure out what I actually needed, and then register on the Intel website for the free version, and then download it. And you have to use their download manager and then get it installed, and it's got like an 11 gigabyte footprint, this suite. So yeah, if you need if you think it'd be a good idea for a video to step through that stuff, just let me know in the comments below, and I'll try and work something in. But as I say, I don't know if it's really going to be of general interest, but we'll see. Okay, so here we are again. We're back at the Atari end of things here, so we can unplug the programmer now. We're finished with that for now, hopefully, assuming it fixes the issue, and we can actually put the machine back together again. I'll take this side cartridge out, it's using that for testing as well. We'll assume that it's fixed and cross our fingers and give it a try. Okay, let's plug the cartridge back in. Let's switch to the other camera. Alright, here we go. So let's turn the machine on. Go straight into the loader. Oh, I didn't quite catch it. So back into here. Go into the loader. And the same test we did before with the hump. And see if things work. This one, what was happening was the picture would just disappear for a moment, and then it would come back with some clear missile graphics running down the left hand side, or some missing graphics. And I tested this with other titles as well, and of course I can switch back if I plug the legacy video in. We can get the original picture, which it looks totally different and somewhat inferior, and there was no problem here. The problem only existed on the digital channel, so I'll kind of narrow it down a bit. We'll get the camera a bit closer. We'll get the camera as close as possible just to give you a good evaluation of what the clarity's like on the screen. And hopefully that's going to come across well. I don't want to get much closer. I'll probably pull the monitor forward a little bit as well if it's got any more give left in it. Yeah, there we go. Right, so here we go. So that's original Atari graphics. You can see we've got a little bit of lines and banding running down the screen. I'll just boot back to the normal blue screen, a bit like that. There we go. So there you can see that's S video as well. That's not composite video. So if we switch over to the digital channel, be prepared to be amazed by the DVI quality. If it decides to appear, there we go. This telly is a bit ponderous about picking up on signals, so hopefully you can appreciate how nice that looks. The camera doesn't even do it justice. It never looks quite as good. Some nice pretty pictures of some sort. What could we have here? Let's see now. Well, E-Type was quite nice. That's another one I've tried. But of course now here's an example of what you're going to miss out on, you see, because these graphics depend on what they call PAL blending. And that wouldn't work too well on NTSC anyway. I'm quite curious to see what it does look like. So if we switch back to the S video signal, it kind of is blending. Actually, it does still work, so you can see that the grey luminances are merging with the colour and taking the colour from the previous field. So that does work. So if we switch back to digital output, we lose that effect completely. And this is the same thing that happens with VBXE, of course, with RGB. You can see that how washed out that looks, just because that method of blending colours just doesn't work with digital video. So let's try and find something which shows the colour off a little bit better. That's pretty interesting. I wanted to show you this. I wanted to show you how clear the picture was, but this crosshatch pattern on the screen actually kills the camera. It completely the amount of detail on this pattern behind here completely kills the webcam. So that wasn't the best possible demonstration. Anyway, hopefully you get the idea. So it does look indeed, because I left that yump running for quite a long time and the problem didn't reappear, and it hasn't reappeared anywhere else. So I'm going to tentatively proclaim this one fixed and fully operational. As you can see, the stereo audio is very nice and very clear through the headphone jack here at the back. Lift it up and you can see again what it looks like there. Quite neat. So yes, so quite a powerful little machine now. Ultimate 1 megabyte Sophia and stereo audio. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that one anyway. It was just a quick sort of follow. Well, it was intended to be a quick follow-up to a previous couple of videos, but we had some problems. But they all seem to be sorted out now. I'd like to thank Simius for his quick action, sending me an updated firmware, which managed to rectify the problem straight away, by the looks of things. I'd like to thank Ron, the owner of the machine, for being very, very understanding about unforeseen issues as they crop up. Really enjoyed talking to him as well. And yeah, so if you enjoyed it, consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already done so. I'd just like to thank everyone who has subscribed already, because we recently surpassed 700 subscribers, which isn't a great deal, but considering just the turn of last year, I think it was, that I passed 500. So edging ever closer to 1,000. So I'm going to keep plugging away with the videos whenever I can, just to hopefully get things out to a bit of a wider audience. The reception to the videos I started making at the beginning of August, having not really made any for maybe about 6 months or so, or 5 or 6 months, has been very positive indeed. So yeah, please share the videos, share them wherever you can. See what we can do by the end of the year, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks very much for watching, so I'll see you next time.